Hey guys, it's Andy Ellis, and it's time for another great episode of the Melodic Noise Insider podcast. Today, I'm sharing a chat I had with Joe and Brian with a cameo from Alex, the bass player of Threads Electric, along with Katie on keys. They're an indie pop group that reminds me a little of Death Cab for Cutie and Coldplay, especially when it comes to the vocals. Their debut album, Breath and Bones, is out now. We dug pretty deep into the songs on the album, their creative process, and much, much more. It was a great chat, so without further ado, here's the interview. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Melodic Noise Insider podcast, Joe and Brian from Threads Electric. Guys, thanks for doing this.
Hey, thanks for having us.
And before we go any further, can you guys say your names so people know who's talking?
This is Joe.
This is Brian, and we've got our bass player here, Alex, as well.
Somewhere off stage.
Yeah, there he is.
Okay. Yeah, Alex, sorry for not including you in the intro. But you're probably used to it because you're the bass player, so.
He's used to it. He's used to it.
It's true, yeah. He's
Let's
just here for
more of those.
He's just here for looking good, which is great on a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's great for an audio medium. It's fantastic. So,
very good looking.
I remember when I first heard about this band, because of the title, I honestly thought it was a clothing company.
Yeah. Or like an electric company.
Or someone, no, it was just like, because has one of you previously been involved in the local film scene at all?
I was part of a project for a 72-hour film festival thing a few years ago.
Okay.
But that's as close as I've gotten.
Yeah, I was part of that briefly when I was covering it for CD Pages, and then when I did some stuff there as well. But it's just kind of like I thought like one of you that's kind of where I knew one of you from. So, but kind of getting back to the music here, can you guys just kind of go through a brief kind of like, you know, your music background and kind of like what led you to music?
Oh, in general?
Yeah.
How far back are we going? I'll start maybe. So like I've always been somewhat musically inclined. Like I took piano lessons as a kid. And then all through like high school and stuff, I was doing choir and like a cappella groups, and I played trumpet in band and stuff like that. So I've always been somewhat musically inclined, and it's somewhat in my family too. The first band I was in was when I started playing guitar, like when I was like 13 or 14, and in high school formed a band with some of my friends, just because like it wasn't even like we need to start a band because we have good songs. It's just like, hey, we're friends and we like music. Should we start a band, I guess? And our band was called Agreed That Kills, which is a hilariously awful name and very like 2001 or 2002 when that was. But yeah, it's always, when you're taking piano lessons at 6 or just like singing along to the radio. I have a sister who's 10 years older. So when she's 15 and listening to like pop radio, like I'm very exposed to that at a young age. So I kind of grew up on like Chicago dance music and pop music from like a young age. Brian, I assume it's like somewhat different for you, but somewhat similar.
I'm just going to take all of your numbers and one up you. So I started piano lessons at 5. So there you go. And guitar at 11. Yeah. But I was never like, well, I guess, I was in music, wasn't in choir for like my first year of high school. And then one of my good buddies kind of gave me that like one little bit of confidence that said like, actually, it's kind of nice when you sing and you have really good rhythm. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm jumping back into this thing. Cause I, as a kid, you don't know for sure. You aren't like, there's a lot of things that can make you question. And so it wasn't like something that I pursued, but my grandma got me piano lessons, and then she got, paid for guitar lessons, and she just knew that I always wanted to play guitar. And I think my sister, who was 12 years older than me, got you on all of this, listened to a lot of like 80s rock, a lot of even like 70s, like Eagles and Little River Band and such like that. And my parents were listening to like oldies like Elvis and stuff. And so I was just like, this is my thing for forever, I think. So.
Yeah, it is interesting to have kind of those like different generational influences and not just like your parents from however many years ago, but having someone who's like, one generation up.
Honestly, I think like that older sibling that's just like rocking out to something and feeling moody in their teenage years when you're like a kid.
Or in my case, like my sister was like making me like, or I was making mixed CDs off of her CDs that she had, and like a lot of those songs were like very vulgar for a like 8-year-old to be listening to.
Yeah.
A lot of those rap songs really dug in there. Some words I did not understand.
Yeah.
And probably still don't.
One of my formative experiences was not me getting in trouble, but my older sister getting in really big trouble for lending me her Walkman with a tape of Kiss, because that was, Knights in Satan's service, and so we were mid Satanic Panic. We were in the thick of it. So, I always just wanted to listen to that devil music, I guess. So.
You made it out okay. You're completely devil free now.
Yeah, that's great. I can say that's probably true.
So far. So are you both from Minnesota then?
I think both not. I grew up in the Chicago suburbs, northwest suburbs, Hoffman Estates, Schaumburg, which is a very like, if you're from the area, it's a very clear distinction of like, you are either from Chicago or not. And if you are from the burbs, you are not from Chicago. But yeah, I grew up outside Chicago and went to school in Wisconsin, and then ended up in Minneapolis in 2012. I just kind of moved up here for a job. I knew very few people. It was really just like my college roommate lived up here, and I had visited here once during college, and I was just like, yeah, that seems like an okay place to live. Let's look for a job up there. And I ended up getting the job, moving up here. And then when I moved up here, I knew like next to nobody. And like the roommate that I had moved in with, within a few months, he like moved to Vancouver. And so I was just kind of by myself. And at a spot where I wasn't really doing anything musically either. I was just sort of, because I was new in town, I was just figuring things out. And so I was playing like a regular Potbelly gig, like the sandwich place. I was playing acoustic covers there every Friday and Saturday, and just doing that as my like musical outlet. And then eventually I had some friends in town from Chicago. They were just like playing a show at the Turf Club, and like watching them play, I was just like, I need to be in a band. I need to play music with people and not just like by myself or at Potbelly. And so it kind of started from there, where I started to, join bands. The first band I was in here, it was called Jacob Champlin and the Blue Jays. And it was a group I had found, or it was a person I had found, Jacob, through a Craigslist ad, where it was just me responding to an ad where this guy had listed a bunch of artists he was into. And I was like, this seems to line up with what I'm into. I'll go meet up with this guy and see if it's a fit. And I found this guy on Craigslist and like was playing music in his soundproof basement, and I somehow didn't get murdered. It's not something I would recommend to people, to just like show up at a random house off of Craigslist. But I mentioned that because that's also how I met Brian.
And Alex.
Alex, yeah,
Yeah.
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 We've Threads Electric is primarily a Brian and Joe project, but then in the past year we found Katie and Alex on Craigslist who have filled out our band and has doubled us up. But yeah, I found Brian, or not found Brian, but Brian and I had met through a Craigslist ad where we had ended up forming this band called Phantom Heart. That that was about 2016, I think, when we had started that band, and that kind of had its season.
Yep.
But yeah, that's kind of how I got to Minnesota.
Yeah. I mean, I got here, I'm originally from Iowa, but I went to Luther College and met a lot of people from the Twin Cities. About a third of their students come from the Twin Cities. And it was far enough away from where I grew up that I wanted to be there. And they had a good music program, which I ended up like not really being into because it was very traditional. But I made good friends like Lindsay Kimball, who's the program director at The Current. We did a radio show together and she managed my band, and she was like, here's a lot of like cool music. And she helped bring down a lot of like Twin Cities artists. Like we'd see like High Respects. There was a label called Blue Worm Records, and it was like Minneapolis, like heavy rock music, like a particular brand of Midwest, like rock music. And there were a lot of different, like, different groups that like Align and, Red Over Lunar, and like a lot of these other bands that Kimball would help bring down to play at Luther. And I was like, oh, I gotta be there. I gotta get up to the Minneapolis. I'm also an artist, so I really was like, this is the place for me to be for sure. So
When you got to Minneapolis, did you start getting into the scene pretty quickly then? I mean, were you performing or what were you doing?
So I kind of just like transplanted my whole college band, and we were mostly from Iowa. It was three guys from Iowa and one guy from the UP in Michigan, and we all had lived up in the cities. Actually, we got this apartment in like Crystal the summer between my junior and senior year of college, and we practiced every single day at City Sound. And we all worked at the Mall of America. And that was quite the trip. But, when you're not familiar and you're just looking for a cheap place to live. So we sat on milk crates for our dinner and a fold out table. And we went to the practice space, every single day and tried to make things happen. But so, yeah, we had a band called Sketches from Memory when we got up here. And we were, pretty heavy, pretty broody. But that was definitely like the start of making music up here.
So with Threads Electric, did that, because Joe says that he met you and Alex through Craigslist. So was Threads Electric, was that originally a you project, or how that kind of start forming?
Yeah, so Brian and I played together in Phantom Heart. And I think we started that in 2016, and then in 2020 we kind of took a break. I don't know if you were around, but there was kind of a global pandemic going on.
No idea.
I don't know if that sounds familiar. But yeah, so like, the band took a break, and also just like me personally, I just kind of just like hunkered down for that time. And then sometime, I think it was like in 2022, is like maybe like early in the year, January, February 2022, Brian just kind of texted me out of the blue. It was just like, hey, like, what are you up to? Are you like writing songs? Are you thinking of making music? Is there like something you'd like to do? And so we just like met up and just kind of talked about ideas. And I was in a spot where I had just, at the beginning of the pandemic, I had like doodled around on a laptop just trying to get some song ideas, but then it just kind of died because I didn't have anything to like look forward to, or like it's not like I'm gonna go play a show, so it's just kind of the energy behind it dies. But just having someone like reach out and be like, hey, what are you doing? Would you like to make some music? Like that was enough for me to just like kind of get like a little bit of a spark going and get something creative going. There was like a few songs or a few just like sketches of ideas that I maybe had before Brian had gotten in touch with me, but like it was really just like after that that we met, we talked, we maybe jammed a little bit the next week, and it was just like ideas started to flow from there. But it was still just like it was just like Brian and Joe playing music. We didn't really. A lot of times when you start a band, it's like we're gonna start a band, we're gonna go play shows. I've already got these ideas. We're just gonna ramp up on whatever we have and just start playing songs, getting an album going right away. But for us, it was really just like, hey, Brian and Joe want to make music together, and we don't really know what this is gonna be. If it's gonna be a band, if it's gonna be something that we just like record some songs, is it gonna be something where Brian and I are just hanging out, having beers, playing together? Like then fine. There wasn't a whole lot of expectation from it. It was just like, let's try it and see. And then after a few like months of just like, playing together and writing some songs, it was just like, we should make it so people can hear these songs. Like we shouldn't just do this in Brian's basement. And so, yeah, that's kind of where the genesis of it started. I remember a moment where it was like, we were gonna play a show, or we had started to be like, okay, let's put a set together, let's go play a show. And then it's like, once we had, enough songs together, it was like, oh shit, we got to come up with a band name because we need to call this something before we can actually go pitch this to people. And that's just what I remember of like how this started, is like, it purely wasn't like, let's start a band. It was just like, let's play music together because we like doing this together. And then it became a band.
How did the name come about?
There was there was a PowerPoint that we created.
Yes.
Or not a PowerPoint.
Well,
What's the Google equivalent of
slides.
PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Slides.
Yeah.
Where we just created this slides deck online to just like spit out some ideas. And a lot of it was just kind of like, man, here's an illustration of what I think the band should sound like. It's like literally just like
vibes.
Yeah, just vibes. Like here's a picture of a gas station at night. I think we should sound like that.
Yes. Yes.
But then coming up with a band name was in there too, or we just kind of started adding words. If I remember right, the thing that like is most intentional about the name is the threads part. When we were just like playing music in 2022, a band that I happened to, I think just the algorithm gods like brought this band to me, is a Minnesota band called Now Now, which I didn't know when I was listening to them was a Now Now band, or it was a Minnesota band. And then when I was like, Brian, have you heard of this band called Now Now? And he's like, oh yeah, like love them. Like
a huge fan.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was just like, this is the kind of music specifically their album Threads was like, this is what I want to make. Like something that at least fits this like instrumentation. Of course, if I try to replicate it, it's not going to sound exactly like that, but just like heavy guitars but also pop sensibility and like some electronic elements. It's like, that's the kind of thing I want to make. So Threads was kind of a reference to that. And then Electric, I feel like was like, we wanted it to feel like some sort of connectivity, some sort of like aliveness to it. I don't know if there's like other things that you remember, Brian.
Yeah. I remember us like talking through that that idea of like, well, threads can mean something that's very organic, perhaps that's interwoven. And then, so is electricity. So is like amplification. And we were working with a lot of synth sounds and like programmed drums and things. And I was like, this has a very like electronica sort of a feel. And so it was kind of this, the homage to Now Now, but then also this idea of we're playing acoustic drums, we're playing electric guitar, we're singing, and it all feels very like human. And then there's also this like, we're working with with tech as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when I was listening to the record, and I think I emailed Joe this at like the vocals definitely remind me a little bit of like a Ben Gibbard of Death Cab,
Mm-hmm.
but I also hear some Coldplay. I also hear a little bit of um Rage Against the Machine too, just in terms
Oh,
of
really?
the drums, especially when because there are definitely a couple of times where you guys do, I think, lean heavier on the rock side of your sound.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so like was that because you said it was kind of inspired by the band Now. Was that because I know Brian, a lot of your history is in heavier bands. What were your, I guess I could say, lighter influences that kind of came out with this band?
Oof. I think Joe and I probably need to speak to our folk rock moments, but yeah, I definitely come from more heavier influence bands, so I think that's just a natural instinct for me is to get a little heavy handed and have a little more like bombast and kind of lean into the more emotive sections where a lot of like kind of hip indie even electronica bands it's just vibes and then just and I actually really admire that, but I don't necessarily have the restraint for that, so I just make everything a little bit rocky. But I think that we lighter music was the question. I think Joe and I both have quite a lot of artists that we appreciate. I like a lot of like alt country.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I like a lot of songwriters. Like like Jason Isbell, of course, and I listen to a lot of actually fairly reserved music, fairly light stuff. Um, and then also like really got into folk and country, and I've really expanded beyond that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when you guys started thinking about the album, did you guys have Alex and Katie yet?
No, we really added Alex and Katie in the past year, right? It was just last year.
Something like that.
Yeah, it was last summer that we added Alex and Katie. So, yeah, at the time that we were doing the album, it was really just Brian and I, which was a different experience for me in like working in bands where like usually you have all of your players live and you can have band practice to write a song and be like, hey, let's tweak this bass part, let's tweak this part, or like we're all just figuring out our own parts at the same time. Whereas this was different where it was like I can only play so much live while we're working it. And so a lot of the times it was like we have an idea for like a verse and a chorus. And so I've created a backing track that's just like some synth sounds with like the chord progression, just going A, B, A, B, A, B, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, so that we can just, Brian and I can jam to this live, and try to work out what this song is actually going to sound like, or is this even going to sound good? So it's just like a different working process when you're trying to write an album as a two piece like that. Another thing with that too that's unique is like where I said that this is a project that didn't start as a band. It was just we want to make music together. We didn't really have an album until we had an album. We were writing songs, and our strategy at the beginning was let's just put out songs as fast as we can because we want to go play shows. We want people to know that we're a real band that exists. So we need to just like have something on streaming so that people can hear us. So our initial strategy was we're going to record songs as fast as we can and then put them out as singles. And we did that for, I think, the first 4 songs, The Tide, Dust, Black Hole of Bad Ideas, and then The We Are. And then after that, it was like, it takes too much work to do a bunch of singles and have a whole new like release cycle with each of them. So we gathered up what we had and decided to make an album of that. But yeah, it was definitely like we kind of stumbled upon this as a band, and then also this as an album. We were just kind of following our passions on this, I think.
So I mean, with the addition, when you do bring in Alex and Katie,
Mhm.
um, did you notice like a because now it's like yes, maybe you make those backing tracks to kind of essentially help with the songwriting process and to kind of like have something to kind of go off of. When you bring those two in, did you like notice a change in your sound or songwriting right away?
Yeah, I mean, even you know, even ahead of songwriting, just coming in and having Alex and Katie play their parts for the songs that are already in the album, it's completely different. I mean, it has the same spirit as like the stuff that we had in the album, but it just takes it up a notch where it's like now that you have for the album, for the songs where we're tracking bass, a lot of it was either me or Brian just like being like, is this how a bass works? Should we do this? Does this sound cool? Let's do 5 takes of this bass riff and make sure we get it right. Where like now you have Alex playing a bass riff and it's just like, whoa, that was really rad. And I wouldn't have thought of that. Or like, hey, that doesn't quite work. Can you try something else? And then he tries something else and it's just like, that's really rad. And it's just a whole nother thing where you have other people bringing their personal experiences to this and not just not just off of my dome or Brian's dome. And yeah, you need to have like talented musicians to be able to support that and not just like, well, I come in and I play bass like this and this is how it sounds, right? But yeah, it's definitely like enhanced. I felt it from a perspective of bringing on new members has brought just like new energy, and like not only are they bringing their elements to it and their personal experience to it, but then like it's kind of like there's a push and pull there where it's like, well, if Katie's doing that on the keys, well then maybe I could do this on the guitar, or maybe if she's doing that on backing vocal, then like we should really make this part shine and really like kind of solo this as like a vocal harmony part.
Mhm.
It's just kind of like adding a whole nother set of colors to the palette here. It just opens up a whole nother door.
Yep. I think that having these players certainly gives us just more. The intention was to add more energy and more fun in a live set.
Yeah.
You can play as a two piece enough, and people ask you, so bass player, do you guys need a bass player? And we're like, probably. But having Katie and Alex, for one, the sounds are a little bit different. The tones that Alex plays with sounds different, and there's definitely a little more like dynamic range than just us playing with our backing track.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also like, I now get to play with a bass player, and I'm sitting behind the kit, and I'm gonna like dig in a little bit, or I'm gonna just do something honestly just to mess with them sometimes.
Yeah.
And he'll call me out on it because he knows I'm like holding out on that last note or just whatever it is. We've added a different live element, and I think Joe was describing that too. We're responding to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're going to see that in the music that we are writing, will write. I think that our members are, going to really enhance that process.
Mm-hmm.
So the title of the album is Breath and Bones. And while it's not a title on one of the songs, there is a mention of it in, I believe it's Dust.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about naming the album that?
Yeah. So kind of similar to like what I mentioned before is like, in a sense, we're kind of stumbling into this stuff. It's not like we set up and went, okay, we're gonna make this album. It's gonna be all about death and it's gonna rule. It was just we were writing songs, and then we kind of took a look back at the songs that we had written and just kind of saw that like a lot of the themes that we were dealing with were having to do with if not specifically with death, but the kind of the limited time that we have for moments and things, and just like nothing really lasts forever, and like not in a sad way of like, oh, we're all gonna die, but like because this time is limited, you just need to make the most of it when you have it. Even aside, death aside, like just everything, every chapter has an end, and so you need to soak it up while you're in there. And that seemed to be a thread that went through a lot of the songs as we had them. And so as we started to piece it together, we wanted to have like an album title that kind of represented that. I don't remember if we had any other ideas, but Breath and Bones kind of stuck out because it was something where, one idea I remember is that like, Brian and I are both big David Bazan fans. He's the guy from Pedro the Lion.
Yes.
And he had a solo EP, and I might mix this up, but we could fact check it later. But I think the title track is called Fewer Moving Parts, and then the album is called Fewer Broken Pieces, but those are just like 2 lines from the song. So it's not quite named after the title track. But I kind of wanted to have something like that, where it's like we have an album title that's not just one of the songs, but does point to one of the songs as like, this is the thesis. And I think Dust ends up being kind of the thesis of the album. It has the most like anthemic stuff to it, and like very important sounding stuff at the risk of like sounding self-important. It has the most to say, explicitly at least. And so it's a song I wanted to like point to and feature as like, this is kind of the thesis of it. And then specifically like the Breath and Bones part, I saw that as an interesting like kind of play on words of like something tangible like bones and something like ephemeral like breath, but both are related to, you know, life and living in some way, where it's like breath, obviously you need to live, but it's somewhat fleeting. You breathe it in and breathe it out. Whereas bones are like dead and dry and they're inside you, but it is something that's like at your core. And something to me was interesting about that kind of contrast between breath and bones that I wanted to have as something, you know, introducing the album, including like the art and stuff like that.
Yep.
So getting into the album now, opens with Black Hole of Bad Ideas. The first line, I want to be an astronaut exploring. And what I like about the song the most is the fact like it does have like this very opening kind of sound something beginning feel to it, and then it transitions into the main song with the drums. Can you talk about this song and making it the album opener as well?
Yeah, from what I remember,
we had called this thing Opener.
Yes.
Intended to make a set opening song.
Yeah.
And that was really intentional, and for the most part that is the song that we play first during our sets. We wanted something that felt, you know, engaging, but also you know, just ask people to kind of listen a little bit and then kicks in. I don't really want to like the lyrical content in that song. It has some of my favorite lines. like watching the past expand and fade. Like that's so neat. And I just get to like observe Joe in that process. But yeah, that's what we wanted to kind of set a stage and then just like come in and really, show what our sound is all about. So that one was kind of intentionally made. We called it Opener for the longest.
It literally, like, when we were gearing up, maybe before we were gearing up for our first show, but like once we got to the point of like, we're going to play shows as this project, we decided we need an opener. And with an opener, we wanted it to be energetic, but I also wanted it to be kind of an overture of our sound. I wanted it to be so that if someone saw just the beginning of our set, they would know like kind of what they're in for, and decide like, okay, I want to listen to this band more, or I don't know, this is for me, I'm going to step outside. But I wanted to have something like that kind of gives you, an appetizer platter of like, this is what we're all about.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a very like poetic song in that way of just like being the black hole of bad ideas. I think at the time I was watching a lot of YouTube videos about time travel and like how that would practically work, where you need to kind of like bend time and space, and if you can build a machine that would like compress and expand time, or I guess compress and expand space, then potentially you could travel through time and create a paradox in that way. And obviously we're not a time travel band, but like I was using that as like a metaphor of like, I want to take everything that I've kind of gathered in my time playing music and just kind of mix these up and put these into these ideas. And I also don't want to be too precious about the songs and ideas themselves. It kind of speaks to what we were doing when we started, of just like, we're just playing music and seeing where this goes. I think at one point I described it as like, I want to treat the songs as cattle and not pets. Like, I don't want to be too precious about each and every song. If we start working on a song and it doesn't work and it just goes away, then that's fine. We'll move on to the next song.
Yeah.
Because we've just got a lot of ideas.
Yeah. I think we should talk about our like creative process in that way. Maybe not right at this moment.
Okay.
But I do think we should, because like Joe and I, and now with Alex and Katie too, we have a good thing going in terms of just like mutual respect in that way, that we can like bring ideas, and we're generally like, yeah, this is really great. But there is that like, that wasn't the take, and we had to do that because we recorded everything in my basement and, did it all ourselves. But I think that song also, the genesis of this band, kind of just being like a vehicle for Joe to write some tunes. That's really what I was looking for. Is just, also, I just really wanted to connect with him as a friend. I kind of missed him for a while, and we really began to connect on like a very like humanist worldview. And also we'd seen some things and, had experienced a lot of ups and downs in life, and also like recognize that impermanence is something that keeps coming up in our conversations. And so I think like, even with that like magic of time and space travel, it's also like, that's kind of grounded in science, right? That's grounded in like in a magic that a strict realist can still like hold on to. And so is music, and I think we were like, these are things that we still recognize as those things that like we wanted to both like have this like kind of thesis statement that starts with some little tingles, some like, oof, this sounds a little different. For me, logistically, it was like, well, I'm not playing the drums for a while, so I'm starting the backing track and I'm like settling in. There's always a little bit of oof, how do I feel comfortable performing? So we wanted something that like kind of helped get us going, get our, all the logistics in place. And it serves all those purposes. And then I just have to hit the floor tom really fast.
So, I mean, you're saying how with this song that you really kind of want it to be kind of almost like an intro to like what the band's sound is too. When you have that approach, are you more, I guess maybe the word is, because you're trying to fit all the sound into so many minutes of music.
Yeah.
Um, is that hard because it maybe allows for a little less, like maybe a little less spontaneity?
Um, are you saying like just like for that song or just?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like it's a because the purpose was to kind of, hey, this is our sound in this amount of time.
It needs to represent everything.
Yeah, and so like I guess the question is like, what is it like trying to fit all of what you guys do into that song in a sense?
That's a good question. I think a lot of it is, we did a lot of takes and a
Yeah.
lot of different inversions of like maybe this part is loud, maybe this part is quiet.
Sure. Yeah.
And there's definitely a lot that of ideas that we had for that song that were ended up on the cutting room floor because it is still only like 3.5 minutes long.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's again the cattle and pets thing where it's just like you have a ton of great ideas, but this can't be an 8-minute song.
Yeah.
So, like you're just gonna take your best ideas and put them in.
And Joe and I were definitely both just like gentle producing the song, just kind of trimming and we did have a lot. We really did iterate on that a ton. And some of it got just, just too, there was some like post rocky, like it could be a really long thing, but we were like, we also want this to just be tidy, so let's just give this as much space as it needs, give the next bit as much space as it needs, and then move on.
So the next song is Highway.
When this war is through, we'll be famous. They'll tell stories of the kids who found a way to make it. When I looked at my life, I saw spaces where alone I will grow. So we fire all cannons to the city of plans until we can't distinguish feelings from figures and facts. And I will crush you all, and I will miss you all until this highway ends.
And one lyric that really kind of stood out to me is, when this war is over, we'll be famous. And, when I've been listening to the song the past few months, it feels incredibly relevant to what's going on right now in Minneapolis. And can you kind of talk about, and I think I think Brian, you have been doing some of the drum stuff outside as well with the drummers in Minneapolis, right? And can you talk about like this song and how this one came about?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about the background, and then we can kind of open it up to the other stuff.
Yeah.
Highway is an interesting one because this is like I started writing this song in 2007. And you can maybe kind of hear that in there. It has a very like 2007 kind of almost pop punk feel.
Okay.
Like I think mostly of it sounds like a Say Anything song, or that's what I was kind of going for at the time with the way the guitar works. So sonically it's in that place, but it's also like this ties again to Now, where this is one of the first songs I was like, we need to make this sound like a Now song. And we actually, when we play it live, we didn't put it on the album because we didn't want to get sued or have something too referential. But like when we play it live, like I sing the lyrics to Thread from the album Threads by Now over the bridge. Maybe someday we'll get to play a show with them or something, and they'll get to hear that and think it's corny, but we'll see. But the stem of the song, when I was writing it in 2007, I was in college at the time, and it's just like it was mostly about like how I was feeling like being on my own for the first time and just like going out and trying to figure out who I am and what I want to be, and how that journey of figuring out self can be isolating, because part of that is like you just need that space to figure out yourself, but also there's a little bit of just like there's a little bit of like ambition that goes along with that, where when you're figuring out yourself, you're also saying, I want to be this, I want to make this of myself. And whether that's like, I want to be this type of musician, or I want to be this type of partner or friend, or I want to be, this type of software engineer, like it's a kind of a lonely journey sometimes. And that's where that comes into the chorus of like, I will crush you all, I will miss you all. It's a little bit speaking to like, I have to go do this by myself. So yeah, that's like a song. I mean, I started writing it then, but coming back to this project with Brian, like I thought that this song would make sense musically, but also thematically of just like, we're trying to make something here, regardless of like what this something is. If it's like we're playing shows together or we're just writing songs and doing something. So yeah, it has a very like strong theme of like going out and like doing something. Specifically that line that you mentioned about which one was that? It was
when this war is over, no, when this war is through, we'll be famous.
Yeah. I that's interesting that you mentioned that in context of Minneapolis now. It's definitely not something I took, like it's not something I wrote in the sense of like I'm gonna do this, whatever this is, whatever your personal journey is. It's not, the point isn't to be famous, but the point is to like to be an example, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe a better lyric would have been, when this war is through, we'll be examples, but that doesn't
Yeah.
it's not quite as poetic.
Yeah.
But the idea was like, if I can go on this journey, then maybe I can serve as an example to someone, whether that's lessons learned or lessons learned of how to go and do it. And I think that that's an interesting connection that you made to like the Minneapolis stuff, because like with all that's gone on here in like the past few months, like you see it worldwide, where people refer back to like the bravery of Minneapolis, the community of Minnesota. And that's something that does like, it does really tie to how we want to represent ourselves as a band, as like, we're out here. That we just had like a weird thing during this whole ice surge where back in the fall, we booked a show at Pillar Forum in Northeast, which is on Central Ave. And then after the ice surge began in early January, there started to be a lot of activity just like right on their doorstep, because Central Ave is there's just a ton of like immigrant businesses, right? And so the week of our show, like the Sunday before, we were going to play on like a Friday night. The Sunday before, there was like some violence going on side with ICE, and it kind of overlapped with a show that was going on at Pillar Forum. And some people at the show, were going outside to observe, and it just became like a kind of like a not super safe scene. And so they ended up canceling the show. And so we were kind of talking as a band and talking with the other bands that we were on the bill with, talking about like, is this still okay to play this show? Or like, is it more important to play the show even now? Right. And in talking to, the staff at Pillar Forum, they obviously wanted to keep the show going. They just can't, a lot of businesses have been hurt by all of this ICE stuff, and Pillar themselves, like they can't just shut down until this is all over. And so we talked about it for a few days, and we just kind of made the decision that we wanted to keep playing the show. And even more than just play the show, we want to show that we're not afraid. Even if we might be personally feeling afraid. But we wanted to show that like, we as a band are still going to be out here playing shows. We're going to be doing our thing. And that we can't let, kind of outside forces dictate how we carry ourselves. We need to decide what we're doing for ourselves. and also what we want our community to look like and we want it to be. So I was really happy to play that show. It was one of the more memorable shows that I've ever played. It was just really great to be out there in Northeast and see all of the people in the room. There was some friends there that I hadn't seen in a while, new friends who had never seen us before, but it just very much had a feeling in the room of like, people just wanted to, even for a moment, for a few hours, just have fun a little bit and just, feel safe and connected in a place and like listen to some music.
Yeah. And how cool, like Pillar Forum has just done so much, and so have other bands and venues. The story there, and with the Twin Cities Drum Company, playing the drum protest, all of it has just felt like, you look at yourself and say like, what are the ways that I can do something? And we as a band, and Alex and the rest of us communicated about that. And Katie, our keyboard player, is an ER doctor, and she very much is like, this is real stuff, but like we are, as a band, I think Joe and I having this kind of shared perspective of like, life is short and we got to do the thing now. That's motivating, that leads to action. Like we want as a band to do the things, advocate for the people who need advocating for. I think that question's really great, because I had started experiencing that song in kind of an anthemic way. But I hadn't really put that to words, but that line, when this war is over, we'll be famous. They'll tell stories of the kids who found the way to make it. Like they'll tell, like, this is right now, they might look at you, see your journey, like Joe was saying, like that personal journey, but also, if you're just like getting through, finding your way to do your thing, like so many people have done in this community, so many businesses, so many bands, have raised tons of money, have, found their way to like get their voice heard in so many innumerable ways. I think that's it, like that this can be a transformative moment, and I hope that it's not soon forgotten.
Yeah. I think even, like what we're doing is so small compared to what other organizations are doing in these times. But I think even those small things, like just being present and being in the scene, still does make a difference in however way that it can. Like, we don't make, us as a band, we're just a band playing music. We're not trying to have like a rebel or, some sort of identity in that way, but like we're just who we are. But also part of who we are is we're a band that has members that are non-white. We're a band that has a female in it. And for a lot of times in the music scene, that hasn't always been safe or welcome. And so even though it's not something that we're like walking in as like, hey, we're the multiracial band or something, but it is something to just show up and just like be like, hey, we're a band and we're doing this, even if like my parents are worried and like they sent me a copy of my birth certificate because they thought I might get pulled over or something. I was born here, by the way.
Time for a hard pivot. The song Tides. No, well, to me it just really feels like a love song, but like with like a very kind of like ocean feel to it a little bit. Can you talk about this one?
Yeah. So the that's so, man, you're great at this. You really picked out that it is a love song, also based in the ocean. But the kind of seed for this song was a few years ago. My wife and we had to put our dog down,
Oh,
which is brutal for us, but also like for me, it was my first pet.
yep.
Like I never really had pets as a kid, and like got to experience that as an adult. We had to put our dog down, and then like a week after that, go on vacation, on this like beach vacation, which was just like a super weird feeling of like, this is really fun, but also I am grieving. And so that's what this song kind of reflects. The Tide is, it's just like, it's about that time that I had there where I'm feeling really sad, but I'm also there experiencing that with my wife Claire, and she's there for me and knowing that I'm feeling that way too, and can kind of be there for me, and we can kind of talk through things. But we're also on a beautiful beach in Delaware. And it's just like kind of a weird contrast of like those feelings. So I was trying to put that into this song of like having this kind of like malaise while also on vacation, and also feeling like, even though it feels like you're kind of like drowning, but there's someone there to kind of like help you up. And so that's a lot of the chorus is like a lot of that like love song stuff of like, you know, you're the sun. How do I not know my own lyrics? But yeah, that's a lot of where the song comes from thematically. And like, what's interesting about this one is like we had this idea of like we wanted this to feel kind of beachy and like sunshiny. And there was one of my friends that I played with in a band back when I was in Chicago. His name's Yusu Kim. He had this project later called Good Son, where he had a song that was like a really great pop song that also sounded kind of beachy. And I was just like, that's how I want this song to sound. I want it to sound mostly just like that. And so I was like emailing with him, trying to get some like production tips. And then eventually it was just like, hey, would you produce this song for us? Cause he's a like working producer now. And so, yeah, he's who we ended up working with on the album. And it just kind of made sense that like, if I want the song to sound like this certain song, maybe I should get the guy who made that song to produce our song. So
Yeah. And that was very much above board. Like that was clearly communicated to Yusu.
yeah, it's like, I want it to sound like the song you have.
Yeah. And Yusu, for a while, Yusu was like the third member of the band, and maybe the fifth member of the band. We just, how we move forward with things, but production was from him for sure.
And so I do want to quickly touch on, it's some kind of an interlude with Reflecting. Can you talk about how that one came about? Because at first I thought it was like, oh, this is gonna be like a transition to another part of the record, but it's actually it's kind of its own thing. Can you talk about this one here?
Yeah. On the album, Reflecting comes right after Broken Scale.
Yeah.
And Reflecting is kind of just like a reprise of Broken Scale.
Okay.
I don't know if Brian remembers the origin of this. Were we just
I feel like
this?
it was not to give myself too much credit here, because I really love doing Reflecting. It was more, I just like couldn't get enough of that song, of that progression, of kind of that feel, even though it just was like, maybe we kind of do something that, if I say makes it doomy, like people will be like, well, it's not, obviously it's not doom metal, but it's like we take the tempo down, and I wanted something that just felt really like we're taking that song, but we're morphing it into something that's just more rocky. That's more like, just get the rest of the feels out. And I think that's what it was, is like, there's still this kind of residual, like I still just feel this impulse to keep using those chords, and like Joe's like kind of playing those chords, and I was like, oh, let's just give this a little bit more space, and do this kind of reprise. And I think there was a convenient way to keep Broken Scale a nice tidy song, and still just let that impulse let's just play this thing more because it sounds so good. And then we had the decision to do it all just as a in the room live one track, and intentionally have Yusu work with that and say, like, make this, we have kind of a lo-fi recording here, and that's what we want. So there just wasn't a whole lot to do. We were using just like room mics, and like it was Joe and I just playing at the same time. And so we just wanted something that felt very like human and felt very emotive.
There's a lot of production on the album. And especially with the genesis of this starting as just like a 2-piece with Brian and I, we wanted to have, there's really like 2 moments on the album where it like kind of cuts back to like, it's just Brian and Joe in the room. And that's the beginning of Highway, where it's just like the guitar and drum intro. And then this entire reflecting track where it's just like, we wanted it to feel like you're just in the room with us and our guitar is too loud and you can't really hear the vocals. But this is what it sounds like to just like be in the room with us.
So I do want to touch on Dust here real quickly. Very like I would say like a low end dominant song, but what really I liked was like the harmonies on there later in the song. It kind of almost turns into like a chant of it's when it's over, it's done, all that matters is the here and now. Was that always gonna be like that? Was that always gonna be like kind of in like chant form for that song?
I think pretty much yes. Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong and if this like evolved from something, but I think if I remember, I think I had that line as like something I wanted to put in a song, and I'm not sure that I knew exactly where. And another idea that I had for songs was I wanted to have something that was like a chant that got repeated. I have a lot of just like choir and a cappella background, direct and run and arrange music for like a co-ed a cappella group, which is kind of dorky now that I think about it, but
it's fantastic.
Yeah. But yeah, so I like, it definitely had like a passion for like, big choral harmonies and wanting to have like a big group sound. We end up having a few songs that have this like big group gang vocal. But this one is where, in Dust is where it's more featured most prominently in the choruses and then in that bridge. For me, just like from a musical standpoint, I wanted to have something that had a repeated line that you could like kind of get stuck in your head, but also wanted to have those harmonies because I wanted something that sounded big and thick. And part of that big and thick in the harmonies is contrast from, again, it's just a 2-piece. And so a lot of times when we're playing this in the room, it's just me singing. And I wanted to have a contrast between just like, here's the lead vocal and here's just like everything kind of echoing it. Thematically, I originally envisioned Dust as like a song about a guy who is dying, but then kind of joining like a gang of ghosts. Like not just like death being a lonely experience, but like once you die, you cross over to this other plane and now you're, amongst these other ghosts. That didn't really bear out in the lyrics in the final cut, but it's something that I kind of kept, and why we had that big like choir thing is because I wanted that to be like, this is like what he's realizing once he's crossed over into the other plane, is like the now is actually what mattered.
Yeah. I think that's like you had said that as kind of the thesis of Breath and Bones. And there's some kind of neat Easter egg stuff that Joe like was very specific about in our like structuring of the album. And that's at our golden ratio to give the secret up.
Yeah. If you've seen Donald Duck in Mathemagic Land, he talks a lot about the golden ratio, which is, I don't know, the
1
best.
to 1.6, right?
Yeah, it's about 1.6, right? Where if you like cut a rectangle by that proportion, you can keep shrinking it down, and then this proportion shows up a lot in nature. But like the music thing about that is like there's like, Easter egg theories where like, oh man, if you play this album right at 61% the way through the album, it plays this thesis statement. And so we structured this album to like line that up exactly.
Yeah.
If you do the actual math to figure out what's like 61.8% through the album, it ends up like right at the bridge of Dust, I think.
Yeah. And I've always envisioned that, like once we started playing that, as something that we give some space and try to do some audience participation. And that's something that is a little bit limiting with some backing tracks. We can't just like give that a bunch of space, but I'm sure, we can find a way to do that, because that sort of chant-like quality, that means it is something that is meant to shared, and meant to get in everybody's heads and meant to be very singable. And so we can, try to find our way through that. But I think that would be a really, a neat thing to try to get some participation, so that becomes a little bit more of an experience.
And it got it. Yeah. It got in my head pretty quick. So, and on that chant at the end, is that, do you have Alex and Katie on that as well? Or is that just, or who is involved in that harmonies towards the end then?
Yeah, unfortunately we didn't know Alex and Katie were recording, so they're not on it. But we did have like a bunch of our friends on this. It wasn't just us. Like we got like both of our partners involved, like just other friends that we had like around here and in like the Chicago area. I just sent them the track and was just like, hey, can you just like sing this back and like send it back and we'll put it on the mix. And so, yeah, it was great to just have like a group of like supporters on us with this. We had like some were recorded like, in their like home studios on like decent condenser mics, and some were just like recorded on a cell phone and like sent over to a producer. It's just like all different levels of people like being able to contribute on this. It was really cool.
Light just went down. No, I was like, whoa.
I have a timer at like 9:15 to try to get myself to like go to bed, because I'm a teacher. I have to wake up early in the morning.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't work. I just always turn them right back on, and I keep watching TV or doing.
So next song is the We Are.
And the morning always comes too soon to see the light. When I'm not there, will you stay steady? Will you? So long we could have fun. So long we could have fun.
one that kind of come back to me was the "So Long, Be Good, Have Fun."
Yeah.
It has a very kind of like thumping intro as well. To me, like as I was trying to kind of and I know a lot of songs can kind of be up for interpretation as well. But like this song, it seemed about loss of some kind, but also a celebration of that person as well.
Yeah. Nailed it. That's the one and singular interpretation. No, I'm just kidding. You can interpret it how you want, but that's a very good one. This song, if I remember back, we were playing, like Brian and we had already been playing shows as Threads Electric, and we were playing a set where I felt like we just needed like one more song, and I started coming up with this idea, and at the same time, we had just, I think we were planning to put My Dog Down. I think that was in the time that this song came up. And so, yeah, that was very much like what I was kind of in the mental space of like, I just want to soak up all the time that I have with my dog at this moment. And just like stay up with her. The stay up all night thing is funny because, in kind of her later months, she had a lot of, she had a tough time like going to bed. Or that's the one and singular interpretation. No, I'm just kidding. You can interpret it how you want, but that's a very good one. This song, if I remember back, we were playing, like Brian and we had already been playing shows as Threads Electric, and we were playing a set where I felt like we just needed like one more song, and I started coming up with this idea, and at the same time, we had just, I think we were planning to put My Dog Down. I think that was in the time that this song came up. And so, yeah, that was very much like what I was kind of in the mental space of like, I just want to soak up all the time that I have with my dog at this moment. And just like stay up with her. The stay up all night thing is funny because, in kind of her later months, she had a lot of, she had a tough time like going to bed.
That's one where I'm like, I'm such a softie that like, I don't want to hear the like, I pray we miss you more than you miss us because we miss you so bad. Because I'm like, it's gonna be hard to like play the drums knowing that that's about Zelda, that's about letting this dog go.
Why is the drummer crying?
Yeah, honestly, I'm like, because he listened to the lyrics for like 30 seconds and he shouldn't do that.
So and then the album closer, An Ordinary Night.
I told my kid to get some rest, brush my teeth, hit the lights, lock the door, and go to bed. So just stay focused on today. When it is over, it is done. There is no chorus, no refrain. When it is over, it is done. It is done.
I was listening to this when it really kind of like, it was a very kind of like almost like reflecting kind of like journal entry type song. And one thing that like, because there's that line of like, when it is over, it is done, which is kind of one of those like, refrains kind of throughout the album as well. Yeah. But another thing I kind of, especially with the production, is that like it's almost like you're kind of like walking down a beach on the intro is like a starry clear night sky in a sense. Can you talk about this song?
Yeah. This one is one that I remember musically. I had this idea. I don't remember. I think the idea was just quiet, loud. as I think where it originated from, is just like I just wanted to have a song that like started out quiet and got loud, and then when I came up with like kind of the melody and chord progression, like I texted Brian, I was just like, I got an idea. I think you're really gonna like it because I think it speaks to some of Brian's like kind of like post rock influences, especially in like the later part of it. But yeah, so the song starts off with just like, you know, very simplistic lyrics, kind of journal entry stuff. Like I went for a walk after work. I like had some dinner and then I went to bed. I told my kid to get some rest. And then it kind of meditates on this, like, stay focused on today. When it's over, it's done. And then that's pretty much it for the lyrics. The like genesis of like that idea is when I was a kid, I remember like I was just like playing Madden in my room, and then my dad, who had like gone to bed already, like got up to go to the bathroom, and then as he came out of the bathroom, just belly flopped on the floor and just passed out. And I thought he was dead. I think my mom thought he was dead. Like, and I was just kind of frozen, and then all of a sudden he just kind of got up and went to bed. So like he's fine, but like that's kind of what I was speaking to in the moment of like stay focused, because when it's over, it's done. It's just like a lot of times when people die, there's no like pomp and circumstance. There's no like, oh, this is it, I'm gonna go. It's just they're just sort of gone. And that's something that I wanted to represent on this album as well. In addition to the more dramatic, like, you know, death scenes of like, oh, this person is joining a ghost gang or whatever, or like, you know, we're trying to soak up our last moments with you. Sometimes it just happens and it's over. And so I wanted to have that as something to just kind of remind myself and like whoever's listening to it too, that like you can't wait for like the moment where you know the end is nigh, because you never know. So like whatever you're doing, whoever you're with, you need to like soak up that time and make sure those people know that you appreciate them, and put yourself at peace that like whatever this is just kind of out of your control. And then it gets loud because I just like having loud parts in songs. I can't have just like a quiet moment where like you're meditating on this thing. We need to like rock out and yell a little bit.
Maybe another time we'll just...
And it's like, and when the rest of the band kind of kicks in later in the song, to me, that like it kind of really had like this finale feel to it. Like it's kind of like at a concert when like the last song and the singer's watching like, hey guys, thanks for coming or whatever. It's like it has that like really finale feel to it. Was this meant to be the closer of the album?
I don't remember. I feel like it's definitely the closer of our sets, right? Have we done a set where we don't close with this? I mean, we've done a couple.
We've mixed things up a little bit, but yeah, it has definitely been intentionally placed. Like,
yeah,
at the end, if not like maybe there's one more that feels a little bit like an encore after that. This, you know, it does have that like finale sort of a feel where I think that's the way we played it on the album, is it was like, okay, just give it everything, just get a little loose with it, just get a, you know, it's catharsis, it's you know, saying goodbye.
yeah.
So
I think we had like maybe like 10-15 minutes of additional just guitar noise that just ended up on like the cutting room floor, because like it was just Brian and I twiddling on knobs in front of the amplifiers, just like making more noise.
that was so much fun. I think that was my favorite part of it. Both of us on the floor twisting knobs.
That's kind of actually where I kind of picked up like that kind of like Rage Tom Morello sound from, because kind of like how he just kind of like makes sounds with the guitars, but also kind of feels like as it fades out, it's also kind of like a transmission ending type sound as well. So you guys are just playing around, just kind of trying to see what you guys could do.
Yeah, I think that Tom Morello, I mean, likely what you're hearing in that is we're using this reverb pedal called an Afterneath.
Okay.
It's a Earthquaker devices, and we have an expression pedal plugged into that. And the way that works is kind of wild, because it doesn't change any of the parameters that are on the pedal, because it doesn't change, it reflects, it doesn't change the drag or like how long the delay lasts, it like takes the delay and pitch shifts it. So it does this like sweeping, like, like up and down of pitches. And that feels very much like that kind of whammy from Rage. But it also is just so fun to like put that in and add noises, and there's feedback, and we're both like, there was such an art to it. I don't know how many times we did that, but we had such a good time doing it. And it was like, we're discovering, we got to get the tremolo to just start like really cutting it out, and like it's got to really start to feed back here. And it actually ended up being kind of difficult, but
I remember the first cut of that we got back from our producer Yusu because I don't know that we mentioned this yet, but like we're working with our producer Yusu, who is based in Chicago. We were recording the tracks at Brian's house here in the Twin Cities, and then just sending the tracks off to him to put together. And a lot of times like you can kind of tell where like stuff should go, but like in this track in particular, where we had a bunch of just like noise tracks that we sent him, I feel like the first cut ended like pretty much like right after where like the vocals ended, and I was just like, actually no, this is supposed to go on like, and all of that noise is supposed to be in there. We want just this big noisy ending.
So when it comes to because you guys mentioned earlier how a lot of thought did go into the sequencing of the album. Was that a lot of collaboration with your producer as well?
I remember him asking us like if we had ideas for sequencing and if we want to sit in with him on a sequencing session.
Yes.
And I don't know about Brian, but I was like, what does that mean?
Exactly. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of such a thing.
But so what we did during the sequencing session is like we had an idea of what we wanted the track list to be. But then when we listened to it with Yusu, our producer, and we would hear the song transitions between the end of song 1 and the beginning of song 2, and how does that sound together? Is there enough space? How does that blend in? I don't remember if we tweaked anything. I mean, we for sure tweaked like timing and stuff. I don't know if we tweaked anything in order. But I feel like what we had decided on for the order was kind of like, it's kind of like how you would build out a set, where it's like, obviously we're going to have our opener song first and have that be the overture. But then after that, you want some catchier songs, some singles, and then it gets kind of heavier as it goes on. I don't remember. I mean, just like the dust placement to just make sure that fits in with the most important, but I don't remember if there are other things that were key to the sequencing. Do you remember, Brian?
I remember, we had kind of constructed what we thought was a good sequence for a set. Mm-hmm. And that just felt pretty directly translated to that order.
Have we ever played this set? Have we ever played a live set in album order?
I think our album release show we did.
Okay, yeah, we probably did it like that there.
Yep. But yeah, that like Zoom meeting that we did, or that, the whatever it was, Google Meet or whatever, with Yusu, he was very like, this is an art, like how much space is between these songs and how this fades even. And we learned some neat things in that. And now if I, as a musician, you hear your songs so much, but I would really hope that somebody at some point would take the time to just, it's 30 some minutes. It's a pretty short album. And I think that it does really work in this way of like, it is kind of a work of art in just how it goes from one to the next.
Yeah.
And there was some really intentional, very like subtle things here and there just to make that flow or give something a little bit of a breath. Mm-hmm. And then we're into the next one, or just there's no break. It's time to roll into the next thing. So that was a neat experience.
Yeah.
Yusu added so much to, what we were able to do with just DIY home recording. And that was something I wasn't expecting, but it's something that I really appreciate now, trying to distance myself and listen to it.
So are there any songs that you're particularly proud of how they turned out?
Ooh, if I had to pick one, honestly, I think I'm really proud of how Past Lives turned out. It's probably our poppiest song. And it kind of has like a dance beat to it. And so it just feels it, at least in my brain, it's tough for me to like envision or execute on like a pop song like that, just because I have such guitar brain where I'm just like, oh, this is how the chords go, and so therefore this is how the song should go. And like a lot of rock songs are like that. It's like very much based on the guitar, whereas like pop can be different. It can be based on, a lot of times it's just based on melody. And I think Past Lives is like that. It's based on like rhythm and melody. And a lot of the time especially when we're doing this, is just like tracking this with me and Brian at his house and then sending it off to a producer. There's an element in there where you don't know what this is going to turn out like. And you're just like, I hope it all works. I hope there's enough guitar or bass in there that like we get the thing that we want. Yeah, you're just kind of just like hoping and wishing it all just turns out. But like that one is one where it really like turned out, I think, even better than I had initially pictured.
Yep. I think Dust is always going to be my favorite.
Yeah.
I really like a lot of that low end. And when Alex plays that live, you know, he's got the like he's you know, going right along with that and keeping that, like, it's pretty like dark and heavy sort of beat, which I of course I really like right away. It's like, oh, something's happening here. But then that song goes places. And I just love every part of it. That's something where like the original backing tracks, I can just sit and play drums to, or I can just listen to those backing tracks. And I think that, you know, what Joe made in those synth sounds and everything is just so vibey. It was so like, yes, this is such a cool song right away. And even just listening to that without anything on top of it, I'm like, I like this. I would just listen to that. I think that's so neat that we were able to build off of this foundation of this really neat vibe, this neat idea that Joe came up with. It's also important to note that Joe wrote all of this stuff without a MIDI keyboard. He used a QWERTY keyboard. Can you imagine?
Yeah,
he used
just
like
punch it in.
a computer keyboard. He's like playing all those chords.
Yeah.
I can't fathom that. So what a guy.
And this is a very broad question. Since, you know, you have released all these songs into the world, like, I mean, have your thoughts or feelings changed on them at all, or how they evolved?
I mean, I think the most immediate thing is you never want to listen to them again, which is it's such a funny thing of like, you know, you go into this wanting to make songs that you like and songs that sound like stuff you want to hear. And there's some element of me that's like, well, if no one hears this, I'm at least making some music and putting it out in the world, and there's more music that sounds like how I want it to sound. But then once you're done producing it, mixing it, listening to yourself sing over and over, you're just like, I never want to hear this again.
Yeah. And then we go perform it. But we love our songs. We love playing them. But Joe, that's such a good, I feel that way as a visual artist too, is like you struggle with the thing and you're just in it so much. Mm-hmm. And it is so much of like, this doesn't exist, but I want to make the thing that I like the most. And that feels very like centered. That feels very much like that kind of should be the motivation. It's like, well, I've always kind of been a little bit disappointed by all of these things that I love, but I'm like, well, I kind of want a little bit more of my own preference in there. Mm-hmm. So here it is. But it's not for me. This is not for my consumption. This is something that I will listen to when we practice it, and then, you know, I will experience as we play it live, and that's that. Now.
So I never listened to it, but to that point, I am very proud of it. This is the only like full length album I think that I've been a part of recording. I've done some other projects that I've been in, you know, they're singles or EPs. But this is the one where like we did a full length, we recorded it ourselves, and we had like, you know, final say on all of the, you know, production and mastering and all of that. It just feels very like we owned this thing. from beginning to end.
From art, everything we put it all together.
Even like the production of the actual like physical quote unquote release that we did. Because that's another thing to mention too, is like when we released this album last year, you know, we put it out on streaming, but we also wanted to have something physical, because that's like a deep core memory for me. Is like I used to love buying a CD and like ripping open the like liner notes and the booklet and seeing all the lyrics that like I had misheard. But I wanted to have that with this because it's the only album I've ever done. And so instead of like actually like going through proper channels and like printing CDs, we just bought a bunch of CDs from Goodwill. And then we ripped out all the art, including like the back cover and stuff, and then put in our own art and booklet with liner notes and lyrics and all of that. But we just left the original CD in there. So at our release show, like we were just handing these out for free and just like giving people a CD jacket with all of our art. It says Breath and Bones, Threads Electric on the cover, but then you open it up, and there's like a like Celine Dion to like listen to on the ride home.
Some Darius Rucker, you know.
Yeah.
What? Oh yeah.
Just kind of like as a
there were
cool
so many good ones. So many
keepsake.
good ones. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I can also tell you too that like, because for the prep for this, I listened to the album a lot too, and I will also be taking a break from the album once this is done. So,
yeah. Get a break.
So I mean, you know, you had your release show. I mean, what has been like the fan and listener response to this music so far?
I mean, you know, obviously from like our friends, a lot of support and great job. Good job, guys. I think the thing that's spoken to me most is like just from strangers. We've had some instances where, the one I think of most is, Brian and I were playing a show at a venue. They were just like, no one's going to be, it was a weekday, and we're just like, no one's going to be here for us. Like, but whatever, we'll play this show. It'll be fine. And there was one guy in particular there who showed up at the show, and, you know, we weren't playing yet, and he was kind of talking to us at the bar. And we were, you know, in like band promo mode. We're like, we got to sell Threads Electric to this guy because this guy struck up a conversation with us at the bar. So we need to talk to him, get him to stay for our set, and hopefully he'll, you know, be our friend. But then he was just like, oh, what time do you guys play? And we're just like, oh, like you probably realize that we're in a band because like we're just like kind of lingering around here. And it turned out that like, no, he'd actually seen us before, just like at a random show, and then saw that we were playing at that venue that night and decided to just come out and see us. And it was just like, wow, like someone actually remembered us,
Yeah.
remembered who we are by like hearing our music and thinking like, I should like mark that down and see that. So it's those kinds of interactions that I really treasure for people that go to a show and hear us for the first time and are just like, hey, I really like that. One other anecdote I think of is, and granted I've heard this secondhand, but my friend Jimmy told me this, that like he saw us at a show at 331, and he was there for our set, and then at the end of our set, these two guys next to him just like look at each other, and the one guy says, so what'd you think? And the other guy says, pretty good.
Nice.
That was it. Just like, oh yeah, that band, pretty good.
Heck yeah.
And like that means a lot to me to meet the level of like pretty good
Yeah.
to just random strangers.
Yeah. One guy intentionally comes to our show that we don't know, and then some other guy says pretty good. We're grasping at straws here. But our response really has been like, you know, nice work. Like we have had numerous occasions where people have never heard our music before and see us live, and find it inviting, engaging. I think it's, you know, it's pretty accessible music. Mm-hmm. It is like, there's meaning in there. There's all sorts of intention put into it. But you know, kind of the bottom line is it's indie pop, rock, electronic, and it's pretty like, you don't necessarily have to know. You'll get it by the next chorus. You'll know what's going on.
Yeah, there's intention there where like I want it to be something that you can listen to on headphones and really pick out the minute details. Like, oh, they did this and they did that. But I also want it to be something that you can just kind of put on at like a barbecue and it's fine background music to just jam to.
Yeah.
So you guys touched on this a little before, but with the addition of Alex and Katie, how has your songwriting and like creative process changed?
I think that's a bit of a yet to be determined.
Okay.
I think that, Joe has brought to the rest of us, as he did before, an idea that has a lot going already. And we've been, working on that, jamming on it, iterating it as a collective. And I think that is a different experience. Part of, the genesis of the band was giving Joe really like mostly just somebody who was going to kind of hold him accountable for bringing another song. And we definitely want to keep it his vision. And I just feel so honored that I get to kind of help facilitate that. But now I have these other players who get to be part of that magic too. And especially like maybe the second time we were jamming on this new song, which is going to be fantastic, by the way. I think, I expressed to Alex and Katie both, I was like, this is that dopamine. This is, when this song starts kind of hitting or starts kind of forming, I love playing live. That's my primary thing that I like to do. I like to just perform and get in front of people, and hopefully like try to make them dance. And I play the drums just dancier and louder, and I look at them in the face and like make it just move your body a little bit. Minnesotans don't do that.
Nope.
They don't. And I don't know, man, I'm trying my best. But to do that then, as with more people in the room, it feels even more special to like do that. Like we're building something and it starts to come together. So I think we're just like really tip of the iceberg with that. So,
Yeah. But it is like, as we've done a little bit of it, it is different in that way of like, you just have more feedback. You have more immediate, like reflecting back. And it's just like, you can kind of churn through ideas a little bit faster that way. And yeah, the thing that I've discovered as like, kind of like the primary songwriter is like, I've always seen this as, even when it was just Brian and I, it's going to be Joe songs, but like, Brian is, has a producer hat on too, and is like, part of this creative process. But what I've realized as like working through that is like, well, even if I'm saying it's all just Joe songs, I'm still trying to write songs to impress Brian, or like I'm writing songs that I want Brian to like. And that's something that I've realized too with, working on this new song with Alex and Katie, as well as like, I also want them to like this. And like, if they don't necessarily like this one, maybe we just move on to the next idea. But like, even if it is going to be like my final say at the end, I still want it to be something that they like.
So almost done here. A few more questions. Honestly, what's next for you guys? You guys kind of talk about what's next.
So yeah, we're kind of gearing up for summer here. We've got a few things in the bucket that we're still kind of like planning to put out. We've got this great kind of studio space at Brian's place, where we recorded like a live session in there, where we set up for a full like live all together performance, and recorded all the tracks and shot video. And we're planning to put out those videos. It's going to be for songs off the album, The Wreckage and Highway. We're planning on putting that out soonish. I think we're just kind of figuring out the like release plan for it. So we've got that coming up. We're working on some new material. We've got shows this spring and summer, but we're still kind of solidifying those things. I don't know what, if anything, we want to mention specifically. Maybe not quite yet.
Yeah, maybe not quite yet. There's stuff that has, it's there, but it still has some question marks around it.
Yeah.
And and some things that are, we will promote when it's appropriate to do that.
Yeah.
And it's not yet.
That's the general story is we're working on some new songs. My hope is that kind of similar to how we had done like the early part of the last album of just like try to get this stuff out as soon as possible, is like that we can get, whether we do singles or we get like 2 or 3 songs together and release those, that like I don't want it to be too long before we go out with the next release, because I think it is something that we have new members and it's kind of a new phase for us, and I want to like have something where like that we can go to the track and go to the recording of it, and even just like behind even just like the actual notes that you hear on the record, but like Alex and Katie can go, I wrote that part. That part is in a Threads Electric song, and this is something that we created together. So I'm excited about that prospect of it too.
Yeah. I think like as a band, Alex has helped us do some significant leveling up in terms of like how we even manage our backing tracks and our in-ear setup. I feel like we've kind of moved to a level where I think we feel pretty confident about what we can offer as a live band at this point. And, we're all looking for somebody to like pay attention to us. So we're going to keep doing that. But I think we're at a place where we feel really very much like, like we have a lot of capability in that way. And I think we sound, like we're pretty polished in that way as well. And we're also looking at like, what does a band do now? Regional shows. We're all very employed. And, so like a longer tour is probably not there, but maybe some small things here or there. But we're serious about this band, and, we love this music and, want to bring it out to more people. And so things like opening for touring bands, playing in, places we can get to in a day or so, is kind of where we're at. But also there's so many venues that we love that, if you play there every 4 or 5 months or so, that feels really special to play Cloudland again in some amount of time. And so there's a lot of stuff that we would look forward to just living here, just doing, local band stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, if from listening to the record, like I am very excited to see you guys live at some point. It's definitely on the list. Where can people follow you on social media?
We're on Instagram. I think all our handles are just Threads Electric. We're on Instagram for sure. That's where we're most active. We used to have a Facebook until our Facebook got shut down for impersonation. I think we just didn't post enough on Facebook.
Yep.
And then they shut us down. We tried to get back in, but we couldn't.
So difficult.
We never made a Twitter. We've
Or
never made a
TikTok.
TikTok, but we've talked
been
about
like, should we? And then we're like, nah, right? No, okay.
Yeah.
No,
So mostly Instagram.
we do have, threadselectric.com. And yeah, but it's the Instagram is really where we're posting things.
So I have 2 final questions for you guys. And if you listen to this podcast before, you may know what those are. One is, what's one thing you would do to immediately improve the local music scene?
We build a time machine and make it 2010 again.
Yeah.
By science or magic. I mean, maybe Brian can expand upon this a little bit more. We talked about this a little bit. And I think what's hard is that there's very few easy solutions for the things that we want to fix. I think that the kind of greater issue is that there just happens to be there used to be like kind of a middle class of bands where like you used to be just like a starting out band, a local band that you can see at whatever regular venue. And then kind of like, the top tier of local bands where you're a little bit more regional, but like if you play a show on a Friday night, people are just going to be there, even if you haven't done anything for a year. And then beyond that, there's like the top tier of like clearly like national acts, right? And it feels like that middle tier of like the top of the local scene has kind of gotten eaten out. And I think that there's a lot of reasons for that, mostly having to do with just capitalism at large, where they're just, we don't have, a lot of venues have shut down. We don't have city pages anymore. Just these things that used to tie us to the local scene have kind of been going by the wayside. That's why we love things like Melodic Noise, because it is like, kind of focused on that scene and trying to, having stuff where you can listen to bands talk about their music and where to find it and stuff like that. Like that, we wish we had more of that.
Yep. Yeah. So like one thing you can do immediately, that becomes kind of a difficult question. And I don't think Joe is being entirely glib about like, we'll make it 2010 again. But there were some things that were really working for this scene that you can just look at in their absence, like City Pages, like like that mid-tier band that people were really excited to go see because they'd heard of, because somehow there's exposure, there's local show, some of those things exist, but there is this, we can sense this pressure of capitalism, we can sense this pressure of what Spotify and cheap streaming has done, what the need to just stay relevant and stay afloat in 2026, like that makes the focus a little bit more difficult, and it means that there just isn't there's a lot of support, but there isn't this kind of middle ground of bands that everybody kind of knows of, but they're not going on a huge national tour. Like I don't know of those kinds of bands, and I love all the the bands that we can say are on national tours, like the Duries, who are really on that level of like, people know who they are, and when they play locally, it's going to be a big deal. But bands kind of graduate from that. Like Gully Boys, we love them. They're not a mid-level. They're awesome, and they deserve all their attention. They're phenomenal. Their last record is so cool. And that's just, launched into that next thing. And I do kind of miss the days of, being able to talk to people about some band that we're all aware of.
Yeah.
And have all caught at something. We all saw them at Cause or 400 Bar or all these places that we can name drop that are gone. But there was something there. There's something that felt really supportive, and I know that's not all gone. And at grassroots level, it's really there. There's a lot of cool support in the scene, but we want to see more representation in the scene.
Yeah.
That's something that we're really strong advocates for, and something that Joe and I were really intentional about. Like, we want to make like space for that, but it's not even like make space for it. It's just, we want to play with the coolest bands and such. And that's not just always, people who look like me.
Yeah.
Middle-aged white guy.
Dad rock bands.
Yeah. Right.
So, last question. What are 3 local bands people should check out?
We talked a little bit about this too, and what we kind of settled on was like, it's a lot of bands that we play with that have really like piqued my interest. And some of them don't even really have a whole lot of music out yet, but like would really recommend, like, therefore, since they don't have music out, you should go see them live when you can. We just played a show at Eagles with Mbahn, EMBAHN. and like Emily Bond is like the lead person in the band, but the band's just called M Bond. But like they have like their instrumentation is similar to us, where it's like guitar, bass, keys, drums, but like their sound is so different than us. But like I'd love, their songs are so good, and I'd love to like play another show with them. Another one I thought of was Anna Houston, who's like a person that we don't know, but we saw her play at Green Room in December and was just like, oh my God, like these are amazing songs. Like we should try to play a show with her or something. So
Yeah. Amazing players.
yeah.
And then we have our short list of like bands that we love and have maybe played with a couple times. So I'll just name drop a few of those. Sunboy is back in action. If you ever have a chance to go see Sunboy, go see Sunboy. Also Mayfly Moon, Wish Wash. These are great people who make incredible music. And every time that we see them or play with them, we're just really impressed with that level of songwriting and that level of musicianship, and also just being really rad, fun, interesting people. And that's just a small little fraction. Like we already named more than you asked. we could, go on, because there is no shortage of really fantastic music here.
Alex?
What you got?
That is a very good question. Hello, I finally have a microphone. I believe Brian and Joe have covered the majority of it. Hello, there's a camera. Let's take that again. I believe Brian and Joe have covered the majority of it. If I would have to technically add Corey Wong's music, because he is very technically local. If being an international superstar, it still counts as local. But to give a more serious answer, Bugsy is currently out on tour, and I would highly recommend checking out their work. So believe it as it is.
Thank you, Alex.
That new Vile record is super cool.
Yes, yeah. I was just listening to that too. Well, guys, thanks for doing this. I gotta let you go so I can go eat and go sleep. But
Fun.
yeah, definitely it's been fun, and hope to see you guys at a show soon. And your album Breath and Bones is out right now on streaming. Go check it out. Joe, Alex, Brian, thanks for doing this again, guys. And Katie, hi.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right.
Regards.
All right.
Thanks for
so
having
much.
us. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was on your back porch passing out, dreaming of the plans you talked about, all the things you never told a single soul.
And that's it for this episode of the Melodic Noise Insider Podcast. I want to thank Joe, Brian, and Alex again for their time. Threads Electric's debut album, Breath and Bones, is out now, and you can follow the band on Instagram at Threads Electric. This episode was edited by me, and I also want to thank our producer Paul Thorson and editor-in-chief Andrew Parizo. Be sure to follow us on Blue Sky, Facebook, and Instagram. Just type in Melodic Noise Media, and you should find us. You can also join our Patreon to help keep the ship afloat. We should be adding some new content soon. You can find me mainly on Instagram at AndySmileyJ. Thank you for listening, and until next time, I'm Andy Ellis. We're also very aware of the struggles that have been going on in the community, so stay safe, support your community, and support local music. Take care, everyone.